A court has stepped in and, at least for now, stopped Donald Trump's tariff chaos in a way that is surely steaming him. His administration is not happy about it. And I have no idea legally how this is all gonna shake out, but let's see if we can catch up and figure out what's going on. A federal court froze most of the tariffs that Trump has imposed on virtually every country in the world, some that don't even have people in them facing these tariffs. They say that he has exceeded the president's legal authority, which in this area, perhaps he has. In every other area, he definitely has, but perhaps in this one too. And so the ruling was issued by a panel of judges on the US Court of International Trade. They halted the 10% tariffs that Trump put on every US trading partner on Liberation Day last month, as well as the much higher tariffs on a number of countries. And this, of course, also gets out in front of the 50% tariffs that he has announced would be put on the EU on June 1st. And then he chickened out and pushed it to mid-July, but theoretically could still be coming. They blocked a separate set of tariffs imposed on China, Mexico, and Canada as well. And some of the reasons they're stopping these different sets of tariffs are actually different, but we're gonna try to tease out the differences there. And so they have largely justified these insane tariffs by citing the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which gives the president the power to regulate imports during certain emergency situations. And basically what has happened here is what has happened in every other area of policy, which is Donald Trump and Stephen Miller have just freaked out and said, we're all about to die, everything's on fire, give me all the power. And so in the same way that Stephen Miller, I think he went to the supermarket and he saw a Guatemalan dude, and then that just broke down, peed his pants, and we have to shut down all migration. In the same way, Trump was told that we have a trade imbalance with China, and so emergency, tariffs on everybody. And so this is deeply weak and unmanly and all of that, but also, according to this court, also not legal, that it doesn't give you, they say, such unbounded authority to do this. And in particular, they struck down the China, Canada, and Mexico ones because the order that set those up didn't even reference the emergencies. And so they're basically saying that he has gone way too far. And we need to debate that, but Tori, what did you make of the court acting in this way?
First of all, I thought the court was in its jurisdiction to find it that there was no emergency. Just like you said, the fake emergency has gotten quite old, I think, and tiresome, and the courts have seen through it. I also think we forgot, and maybe Trump should take that Harvard free civics class that they're giving out now and learn that the Congress holds the purse strings. They always have. They have the rule of tariffs. And unfortunately, if he wants to go through Congress, Tory here doesn't think he has a majority. I don't think the majority that he thinks he has, because I think a lot of Congress people feel their constituents are struggling through these incredible tariffs and they don't want to put themselves out there. So my question back to you, because I'm gonna want to start playing pickleball and there's a lot of like volleying I hear, so I'm gonna go back to you on this. Do you think he will listen to the courts? Because my question is, what happens? I think he'll appeal. I think he'll go through those steps. They're gonna go all the way up to the Supreme Court or try. But do you think Trump's way, I mean, I'm thinking of the El Salvador gang where the judge said, bring him back, and he just said no. The idea of like, who enforces it once the courts say something and Trump doesn't wanna follow that rule? That's sort of what scares me about who enforces it once he goes against it. But John, do you think he has a majority in the Congress for these tariffs?
Like, you mean that he could actually get the tariffs passed through Congress? No, I don't think so. I think that's one of the reasons. That's not the only reason he's not even trying, but I think that's one of the reasons he's not even trying. But no, I don't think most elected Republicans think that almost anything that he's done in terms of tariffs is actually in our country's best interest. They just can't speak out. A few have, but most haven't. I think they're worried about losing their positions. Now, will he actually abide by what the judge says? I don't know. As you point out, we're not in these like grand old days of like hypothetically would he defy? No, he already does. He does all the time and nothing happens. So
exactly.
I don't know, like, do you expect anything to come of that, or is that just get used to it, America?
Right, and that's my question is when people ask, well, then who enforces the court's rule? We haven't dealt with that yet. We haven't had a president say, I don't want to hear that, la, 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 la. That's sort of an insane way to have what we would call maybe a quote, constitutional crisis. When the three branches and the checks and balances actually aren't working because one guy wants to rule it all. That's called a tyranny, a dictatorship, authoritarian. So I just want people to pay attention to Trump does something, the courts say no. What happens then? Because usually it stops there, but it doesn't with this guy.
Yeah, well, one added thing we have, as we generally do, is members of his administration crying about anything that the judges do. Again, these same exact people were so happy, content regardless, when things would be struck down under Joe Biden. They thought that was
That's right.
Obviously appropriate. Nationwide injunctions are the best thing ever. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It's awesome to shut it down. In this case, judges should have no power whatsoever.
Zero.
And so, spokesperson for the White House says it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. See, Kush Desai, White House spokesperson, he has caught this thing that's affecting all of the boys in the White House where it's so scary, it's an emergency. Who thinks we were in a trade emergency? Like again, we're not in a climate emergency. Don't imply that we're facing an apocalyptic threat. Don't do that. But we are definitely in a trade emergency because, oh man, Switzerland is getting one over on us.
Not the Swiss.
Exactly. And Stephen Miller says the judicial coup is out of control. It's a coup. It's not separation of powers. It's not nothing like that. And again, Stephen Miller would never abide a coup as he works for Donald Trump. And let's see, the three judges, by the way, they were nominated by Ronald Reagan, Barack Obama, and Trump.
Yeah, himself.
I choose the worst people, man. I don't know why I keep doing it.
I create the swamp.
He's just emitting swamp. And Charlie Kirk, he says it's activist judges, so what's even the point of having a president? Which in his defense, he said the same thing when judges overturned Joe Biden's student loan cancellation. He was like, no, Biden got elected. You're activist judges. Kidding, of course. Now, he tries to do a fact check because he wants to pretend that he cares about reality or facts or whatever. And he says that much of the power of Congress was delegated to the executive branch in the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 and says that allows for adjustments to tariff rates without needing congressional action. Courts have given the executive branch broad authority to negotiate trade. That is until now. Again, do you see the bait and switch that he's doing there? In the former part, he's talking about power being delegated by Congress, theoretically could be taken back on the topic of tariffs specifically. And then he says, well, judges generally let trade be negotiated. You know, we understand that the White House is in charge of diplomacy and trade deals. That's not what's being debated here. And even when he talks about broad authority, well, broad authority is only so broad. And you may think that the president under normal situations should be able to set tariff rates. I've generally not had a problem with that because generally they weren't insane psychopathic toddlers who were setting a tariff and then jacking it up and then doing it down and then saying it's gonna happen in a few weeks and then maybe not. And then I'm gonna get a plane and all of that stuff proves that, well, no, actually maybe that was a bad idea. And maybe somebody who's a little bit more responsible or maybe understands how international trade actually works should be looped into this process. Any other thoughts?
Well thought of. I just think you maybe should be running. It just sounds like you're running. Is that what's happening here, John? You're running.
John Iadarola, 2028, not gonna happen.
I would vote for you, but yeah, I think this is gonna go to appeal and he's gonna pray for his Roberts court to go and fix him because he fixed them. I think we remember him in the State of the Union whispering to one of the court's justices, and we was picked up on a hot mic. Thanks for what you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing. All of that makes me think this is just going to appeal, go to the court, and Trump's going to pray and cross his fingers that the Roberts court goes for him because he curried favor for them. I hope that doesn't happen. I really don't.
I have no doubt that they'll knock this down.
I agree.
I mean, they have shown almost no willingness whatsoever to curtail his power or to just, even before he became president, to give him additional powers. This is at least in the area of a thing that presidents traditionally have been able to set tariff rates. Now he's doing it in what I would say is a insane way. And likely an incredibly corrupt way. We've been talking about that. But it's at least in the realm of what presidents do. So I don't think they're gonna limit him in that at all.
No, I don't think so either.
And by the way, ideally when a Democrat gets back in office, we're gonna need someone who's able to take away these insane tariffs. So I want them to have that power in the future at least.